It was an ordinary Tuesday morning. The baker was already at work before dawn, his ovens heating the same bread he had baked every day for 20 years. The wine merchant was arranging amphorae outside his shop. Children were running through the streets toward school. A gladiator was training in the courtyard beside the amphitheater. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. Then, at 1 in the afternoon, the mountain exploded. By the following morning, the city of Pompeii, a thriving Roman city of 20,000 people, no longer existed. We know the baker was working because his bread was still in the oven when archaeologists excavated it 18 centuries later. We know the last words people spoke because someone wrote them down. We know the final position of the bodies because the ash preserved them perfectly for 2,000 years. Pompeii is the most documented disaster in the ancient world. And the story is nothing like what you've been told. Pompeii, in 79 AD, was not a backwater. It was one of the most prosperous cities in the Roman Empire. A commercial hub with a population of between 11 and 20,000 people. It had 2 theaters, an amphitheater that seated 20,000, a forum larger than many modern city centers, paved streets with stepping stones so people could cross without getting their feet wet in the rain. Pompeii had a fast food industry. Over 80 thermopolia, Roman hot food restaurants, have been excavated. They sold meals from stone counters directly onto the street, the same way we order from a window today. It had a water system supplying fresh water to every neighborhood. Public baths, libraries, gardens, temples to a dozen different gods. It was, by every measure, a rich and sophisticated city. And it sat at the foot of a volcano it had completely forgotten was a volcano. Mount Vesuvius hadn't erupted in living memory. Its slopes were covered in vineyards producing some of the finest wine in the empire. The Romans didn't have a word for volcano. Vesuvius was simply a mountain, a beautiful, fertile, entirely harmless mountain. The warning signs were there. For several days before the eruption, something was wrong. Wells that had flowed for decades ran dry overnight. The ground trembled, small, persistent earthquakes that had been happening for years. Springs stopped flowing. Animals refused to eat. On August 20th, 4 days before the eruption, stronger tremors shook the region. We know this because a 17-year-old boy, named Pliny, wrote it down. I'll tell you more about him in a moment. We also know that some wealthy Pompeians had already begun quietly moving their valuables out of the city. The people who stayed did not stay because they were foolish. They stayed because Vesuvius had been giving these same signals for years without erupting. Because the Roman world had no framework for understanding volcanic danger. Because their homes, their businesses, their entire lives were in Pompeii. Because nobody abandons everything they have built on the basis of a bad feeling. On the morning of August 24th, 79 AD, approximately 20,000 people were still in the city. Most of them would be dead by the following morning. At 1 in the afternoon on August 24th, Vesuvius erupted. The initial explosion sent a column of volcanic material 33 kilometers into the sky. Let that land on you. 33 kilometers, twice the cruising altitude of a commercial airplane. The column collapsed and re-expanded multiple times over the next several hours, raining pumice and ash onto Pompeii at a rate of 15 centimeters per hour. But here's what most people don't know. The ash was not hot enough to kill immediately. The pumice stones, falling like heavy hail, were painful, but not instantly fatal. People who stayed inside were initially safer than those who fled into the streets. The roofs held, at first, but the ash accumulated. 1 centimeter, 5, 20, 30. By nightfall, the ash layer was thick enough that roofs began collapsing. People who had sheltered inside were trapped under rubble. Those who tried to flee found the streets, neck-deep in ash and falling rock. The air filled with sulfur dioxide, and then, in the early hours of the morning, came the thing that actually killed most people. Not the ash, not the pumice, the pyroclastic surges. A pyroclastic surge is what happens when the eruption column becomes too heavy to hold itself up and collapses. The result is a superheated wave of gas, ash, and rock fragments. It travels at 700 kilometers per hour. Its temperature is between 300 and 700 degrees Celsius. Nothing outruns it, nothing survives it. Between 1 in the morning and 8 in the morning of August 25th, Vesuvius produced 6 pyroclastic surges. The first 4 did not reach Pompeii. They hit Herculaneum, a smaller city to the northwest, and destroyed it completely within minutes. The 5th and 6th surges reached Pompeii. When forensic scientists analyzed the bones of Pompeii's victims in 2018, they found something extraordinary. The bones had exploded from the inside. The heat had been so intense and so sudden that the water inside the bones had flash evaporated, turning to steam faster than the body could react. The victims didn't burn to death. They didn't suffocate. They didn't have time to feel anything. They died in a fraction of a second, in exactly the position they were in when the wave arrived. That is why the casts look the way they do. In 1863, archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli made a discovery that changed everything. He noticed that the hardened ash around Pompeii's victims contained hollow cavities, the shapes left by bodies that had decomposed inside the ash over 18 centuries. He injected plaster of Paris into the cavities. When he broke away the surrounding rock, he had a perfect cast of a person's final moment, their clothing, the expression on their face, the position of every finger. One man died covering his face with both hands. A woman died reaching toward a child. A dog died straining against its chain, still attached to the post where its owner had tied it. A group of people died in a basement, having apparently decided that sheltering underground was safer than running. One man died with coins clenched in his fist. He had grabbed his savings before fleeing. He hadn't made it far enough. The casts are not dramatic. They are not heroic. They are ordinary. They are people who ran out of time in the middle of something entirely unremarkable. And that is why they are, perhaps, the most powerful artifacts in the ancient world. While Pompeii was dying, one man was sailing toward the disaster. Pliny the Elder, admiral of the Roman fleet at Misenum, natural historian, one of the most learned men of his age, was stationed across the Bay of Naples when the eruption column appeared. He didn't evacuate. He didn't take cover. He launched his fleet, not to rescue people. He launched it because he had never seen anything like this and he needed to study it up close. Pliny the Elder was a scientist. He died like one. En route, he received a message from a friend whose villa sat at the base of Vesuvius. He changed course. Now it was a rescue mission. He reached the villa. They waited for the ash to clear enough to escape by sea. The water was too rough. They wrapped pillows around their heads to protect against the falling pumice and walked outside to wait. When the pyroclastic surge arrived in the early hours of August 25th, Pliny the Elder died where he stood. He was 56 years old. We know all of this because his nephew wrote it down. His nephew, who watched the whole thing from the other side of the bay. Pliny the Younger was 17 years old when he watched Vesuvius erupt from across the bay. 25 years later, he wrote 2 letters to the historian Tacitus, describing everything he saw. Those letters are the only surviving eyewitness account of the eruption. He describes the eruption column as looking like a pine tree, broad at the top, narrow at the base. He describes the darkness that followed the surges reaching the mainland. A darkness, not like a moonless or cloudy night, but like a sealed room with no light at all. He describes the panic. People tying pillows to their heads, holding torches, gripping each other's hands so as not to lose each other in the dark. He describes his mother urging him to leave her behind. She was older and slower, and she did not want to cost him his life. He refused. and he describes the moment the surges crossed the bay toward them. I could hear the shrieks of women, the wailing of infants, and the shouting of men. Some called for their parents, others for their children or wives, trying to recognize them by their voices. Many sought the aid of the gods. Still more imagined there were no gods left and that the universe had been plunged into eternal darkness forever. Pliny the Younger and his mother survived. The people on the other side of the bay did not. In 2020, archaeologists excavating a previously unexplored room in a wealthy Pompeii home found two bodies. A man, approximately 40 to 45 years old, and a younger man, approximately 18 to 23. The older man's hands were pressed against the younger man's chest, a gesture that looked protective, like a shield. DNA analysis showed they were not related by blood. Their teeth told different stories. The older man had eaten well his entire life. The younger man's teeth showed signs of childhood malnutrition, a common marker of slavery in the Roman world. The interpretation: a wealthy man and his slave. The slave had likely stayed to protect the house. The wealthy man, who could have escaped, had apparently stayed as well, and in the last moment had tried to shield someone who had no choice but to be there. We don't know their names. We don't know their story. We don't know if the gesture meant what it looks like it meant. We know one small human thing. In the last second they had, someone moved towards someone else, and 2,000 years of ash preserved it. Pliny the Younger and his mother survived. The people on the other side of the bay did not. Pompeii was forgotten within 2 generations. The ash buried it completely. The survivors never returned. Within 100 years, people had forgotten there had ever been a city there at all. It was rediscovered in 1748, by accident during construction of a summer palace for the King of Naples. Today, Pompeii is one of the most excavated sites in the world, and it still holds secrets. Approximately 1/3 of the city has never been touched by an archaeologist's brush. What has been found has rewritten our understanding of Roman daily life, not the emperors and generals of history books, but the bakers and merchants and slaves and children who made up the actual texture of the ancient world. Pompeii endures not because of its tragedy. It endures because it is the only place on Earth where ancient life was frozen mid-sentence, mid-breakfast, mid-argument, mid-breath. A city preserved not at its greatest moment, but at its most ordinary one, and in that ordinary moment, entirely, permanently, heartbreakingly human. What part of Pompeii's story surprised you most? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this changed the way you think about history, hit like. It helps more people find these stories. And subscribe to Lost Echoes, because we're just getting started. In the last second they had, someone moved towards someone else, and 2,000 years of ash preserved it. Pliny the Younger and his mother survived. The people on the other side of the bay did not.